So I'm here with Pat Booth, and Pat is an organic farmer just outside Stradbally in the Heath in County Laois. And Pat has benefited from TAMS funding over the years. And so look, I suppose before we go on to talk about TAMS funding, Pat, could you just first of all tell us a little bit about your farming system here and how long you've been organic?
I farm here with my son Dennis. We're farming, we've a suckler herd, organic suckler herd since 2008. And we became full symbol in 2010. We also grow tillage crops, wheat, oats and barley and beans. We grow barley for Waterford distilleries, and we grow oats for Flahavans. And obviously we grow other products then, we'll say, for resale to other farmers. We have a small processing business here on the farm as well.
So you sell things like combi crop and beans, peas, anything really?
Yeah, we sell from about October onwards. We would sell straights and combi mixture, organic combi mixtures to other farmers as well. Okay. And that business has grown over the last 5 or 6 years as well. Okay,
I suppose you're standing there beside one of your investments from TAMS, so maybe you might describe this machine and just describe, I suppose, some of the equipment you got funding for. So starting with this one here, can you explain what we have here, please, Pat?
This is a Teagasc mulcher. Purchased it about 4 years ago, and we received a TAMS grant on it, and have to say it was a great investment. It's a very heavy duty machine, and just even looking at the tines, that's a kind of a worn out tine on it now, so it's almost like a tine of a hedge cutter. So we can kind of, you know, cut grass, thistles, ragwort, rushes. And the depth setting on it is by a roller on the back of the machine, so we can, you know, set it maybe an inch and a half high after the cows go away, and when they come back kind of, you know, 21, 24 days later, even if there's ragwort in the thing, it's mulched completely and has disintegrated into the ground. The same with thistles and docks, etc. And I notice as well, we'll say where you'd have cows, obviously the big dung patches, it splatters that as well. So when you come back kind of 3 weeks later, you know, almost like a kind of a topping of fertilizer between mulching all the stuff, and I find it fantastic for grassland. Yeah.
And do you grow? You have cover crops as well on your farm, so you use it for mulching the cover crop?
Even before kind of catch crops were, I suppose, maybe grant aided, we were using catch crops, because obviously trying to keep nutrients on an organic farm are terribly important. We would have about 100 acres of spring crops, and we would nearly anything that's going to be sown into spring, we would keep that green over the winter with catch crops.
Maybe we'll have a look at another investment you got through the TAMS scheme as well. And we have over here an Einbach, a kind of a tined weeder. Maybe we'll just move over and we'll have a look at this one.
This was our last purchase under TAMS. We bought it last October. Now it's only going to be used in the springtime, so it's really our first trials will be probably in a fortnight's time. It's mainly for spring crops. We find that the spring barley will have a lot of very soft weeds, you know, lamb's quarter, fat hen, red shank, and if we can knock those, we'll say, you know, when the corn is at 2 or 3 leaf stage, and maybe even go a second time with a tine weeder. This is a 12-metre machine. It's relatively new. My son basically had been doing a good bit of research, maybe watching farmers in England with these machines. We bought it in PJ Callan's 9-box machine, so it's really going to be a trial and error, but we're hopeful. I have seen them working in Ireland, and you know, I'm hopeful that this will be successful in the spring crops this year.
So as opposed to going in between the rows, this is actually going through the crop. It doesn't differentiate between the rows. Might do a bit of harm to the crop, as you say, but the idea is if it's not doing a certain bit of harm, the crop will recover. But the weeds, you're trying to take out the weeds when they're very young, like very young seedling weeds. Yeah.
I suppose obviously the setting and the levels and the depths that you're doing and the speed as well. About 4 years ago, we bought a Hiva disc roller, and we put an air seeder on that, which we got TAMS grant aided for. We bought a tillage roller. It's a Hiva 6-metre roller, and when we're doing the spring work, normally kind of, you know, in inclement weather conditions, we'd have 2 ploughs ploughing, and we would roll in and level with the paddles on that particular roller. And obviously if ground conditions are good enough, then we'll roll in behind with that same roller minus the paddles. So we found that a good investment. I think we bought it about 4 years ago, and we got the TAMS grant aid on that.
So look, yeah, you've gotten lots so far, I suppose, through TAMS, and under the OCIS scheme, what plans, I suppose, have you in the next year or two? Have you an investment in mind, what you might like to purchase?
We have looked at some of the older inter-row cultivators for the like of bean crops. And that's something that, we've obviously, my son has been watching them online, and I know that there are a few coming into the country now. It's kind of, there's new innovations coming in all the time, both for conventional and for organic farmers. So we'd certainly be looking at maybe inter-row cultivator in the next couple of years.